Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. My name is Melinda and I am one half of Hustlin' Hooks together with my husband Dean. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. If this is your first video on our channel, this one is actually going to be a little bit different than the normal videos we do. In this one, I'm going to be covering how it went my first month after I quit my office job and dedicated the hours instead to working on our eBay, Poshmark, and Etsy stores. So if that is something that interests you, stay tuned because I'm going to be covering pros and cons. Okay, so as our longtime viewers know, I quit my office job last month, which was February 2021, and instead of going into an office 2 or 3 days a week, I instead took those hours, and those were days that I was going to be focusing primarily on our eBay store. I say eBay, but of course it covers our smaller listings on Posh, Etsy, and then at the end of the month we started getting into Facebook Marketplace as well. So let's go over what I was concerned about. One of the concerns that I had was that I was going to be working in the same space as my kid until we had our garage renovation completely done. I would say that actually ended up not being as big of a concern as I had thought it would be. Yes, there are times where Jessica comes down and I say hi, but there's also times where I go up just to see her. You know, it sounds like they're having a dance party, so I go say hi. So I pop in and she pops in here and there, but my mom is really good about, you know, keeping her to her schedule and keeping her playing upstairs. We have a whole floor dedicated for her, so she has plenty of places to go, plus her room, plus outside now that the weather is getting nicer. I will stop and have lunch with them sometimes. Sometimes I'm making lunch for everybody, so that can take out up to an hour. But that almost forces me to stop, which I'm not actually really great about doing, and I'll get into that. So I would say that's not as big of a concern. What was a little bit more of a concern that I hadn't really thought about was starting my day later and starting my day sort of after I've been in mom mode. If you have ever left work on your lunch break and you've gone home or you've gone to like a nice restaurant, you sort of get out of that work mindset. So my day was starting a little bit later because I was either taking Jess to my mom's or she was coming over a little bit later because she didn't have to be there at, 7 a.m. anymore for me to get to an office job at 8. So that was a little bit difficult. First, switching those mindsets, and then also just getting that later start. I didn't really feel as productive as I could be. To compensate for that now, I've started just waking up extra early. So I'll get up at like 5:45 now so I can get my coffee going, start some listing, really get in that mindset. And then Adin's been pretty good about hanging out with her until my mom gets there when he can. Or I'll just take her after breakfast and then we'll go to my mom's, and then usually I'm out and about, so I'll source that day anyway. Another concern that I had was the workspace. So everything is everywhere right now, like literally everywhere. That is true. That has been a concern, and that does mentally weigh on me constantly. I mean, there is nowhere to go to get away from it because I'm working in my house and my house is just eBayed out. I mean, even when I stop for lunch, if I stop, I'm in my dining room, and our dining room is where we put stuff before it gets inventoried. So I'm still sitting there looking at all this stuff. And that's very mentally tough for a number of reasons. One, this is my home. It should be a place where I can relax and be comfortable, not a place where I feel like I have to constantly be working and doing stuff, which is sort of how I feel right now. And it also, I just don't want to live like that, and I don't want my daughter to live like that. So we're still working on the garage and it's in the near future. This is absolutely not long term, and I'm definitely dealing with it as best I can. I come into like this room is our guest room, and I'll sit and I'll list in here so I have something nice to look at and sort of have that mental break. But that has been as tough as I knew it was going to be. Part of me does wish that I'd stuck to my guns and really decided not to quit until I had a dedicated office space for that reason. But I also don't think it was the wrong time, because sometimes we have to be put in those uncomfortable situations for us to really push for that growth. I am more motivated than ever to get a different office space, and I actually, looking ahead, already see us really needing more of a warehouse type of environment even, because we're just going to continue to grow. What I didn't expect to be the most difficult for me is how much I relied on having a consistent schedule. I got up, I was in the office by 8, and I knew what I was going to be doing. I had a checklist of things essentially that I knew that I had to get done, and I really thrived in those environments. I've always been an overachiever. I've always gone above and beyond. So not having a set list of things to check off and see that I accomplished in a day, very, very difficult for my type of personality. And I did not foresee that as being a big factor in how I felt working from home. The scheduling also, it changes, it varies. Sometimes I end up doing a whole day of sourcing when I didn't plan to. Other days I sort of get off track because something is taking longer for processing or cleaning, or one morning I just needed to inventory because there was no way I was going to add more stuff to that pile that day until I got what was looking at me just out of my face. And that took the whole morning. It took until lunch, which I hadn't necessarily planned on. And that's very difficult for me. It's getting better. I would say now I'm just really getting used to being more flexible with that. And I know some people will say make lists, but it's not the type of thing I can necessarily make a list for, because I know if I'm going to be processing hard goods, those can take a little bit longer. So I can't necessarily say, oh, I'm going to get 40 hard goods processed and photographed, because I just don't know what they're going to look like. I don't know how dirty they're going to be. I don't know the amount of testing something is going to take sometimes before I do it. I mean, it can sort of guess between here and there, but it's not like I can just write out a list and check them off as I'm done. And I also think because some things end up taking longer than anticipated, it might be disheartening because I wouldn't be able to get to check off everything, and that would be very difficult. So for now, I have days where, okay, I'm going to process this category today, or this is what I'm going to be working on in general. And that sort of helped the anxiety that I have towards not being able to get everything done. So that not having specific schedule and specific tasks that I needed to do in a day, combined with literally just looking at everything that I always had to get done, really worked against my personality. So if you have followed us on Instagram for any amount of time, especially from the beginning, or our YouTube channel, you know that Adine and I have very hardworking personalities. Me specifically, I like to get everything done before I relax. It never feels like I have everything done, and that is so hard. That is the hardest part. And because I have no different office space, I have nowhere to shut it off. So all day, every day, it almost feels like I'm constantly in work mode, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing because I enjoy what we're doing, but I do wish I could have the option of separating it. Now, one of my goals was to prioritize my self-care, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna have the whole day and it's gonna be great. I can do whatever I want. That is not what happens when you are doing this kind of business. I just work. In fact, a lot of times I will actually skip lunch because I just see everything that needs to get done and I want to do it. I just will not feel right until it's done. So I, like, you know, it's 8-10 hours later and I've been standing on my feet all day, maybe moving, maybe not moving. Usually I get like 13,000 steps in when I'm working on eBay. So I'm moving, but I'm not taking that 30 minutes that I need to be taking to have dedicated personal care time. It also, hand in hand with that, it's been, the first couple of weeks were very hard in that sense because I never felt like I was being productive, because no matter what I got through, there was just more. So it just never really felt like I was making a dent. Now that's not necessarily an accurate perception of what was happening, because, you know, I was getting 35, 40 things at least processed a day, more if it's clothes, less if it's hard goods. But that works out to be roughly 15 or 40 things between the 2 days. So, and that's when I would spread it out, because I'm working on eBay right now every other day. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I would have enough photographs for 2 days at a time. But I mean, I don't know what standards I'm comparing myself to, and I don't really have anything to go off of. Dean always felt, he would say, you know, you're holding yourself to too high of a standard. But I don't know if that's true, because obviously I'm getting stuff done. I mean, one day I did 100 pairs of shoes. I processed 100 pairs of shoes, and I worked it out. I spent 6 minutes per shoe on average, and I am crazy probably for saying this, but I really didn't feel like I was productive that day, because all I did was shoes. And I thought, yeah, but all I got done was shoes. I didn't do any clothes and getting hard goods processed. I spent 10 hours cleaning shoes, and I still didn't feel like I got anything done. So what really helped was seeing our February numbers. When I saw that we were $100 shy of breaking our previous record, which was Christmas month, right? December, where everybody's buying stuff. That helped so much, because I saw in numbers on paper, okay, we are pushing. I am processing enough. I'm keeping the monster fed enough. Because I would say for the month of February, I was doing the majority of the processing and the listing, while Adine did other projects, and then he would source a little bit more than I would still. I would source about 1 day a week, and Adine sources still every day, Monday through Friday. And then we've been hitting up some estate sales sometimes on weekends. We've gone to a couple now, but we've been able to get up to and maintain over 900, actually closer to 970, so almost 1,000 active listings. And we've been pretty consistent about that, even on big sales days. So that was very helpful for me. Really, that month was my metric of, okay, yes, I hit my goal of increasing our monthly numbers, and we did it with flying colors. So I do feel going into March, a little bit of the pressure is off, but it's still on because I want to keep that momentum going, obviously, but I feel better about the process. And obviously, this is still a very early transitional phase. This is constantly going to be changing as our business changes and grows, and as I get more comfortable having these more flexible schedules. I definitely think it needs a revisit in 6 months, because I feel like I will have a better grasp on it, and I'll have a better fluid schedule down. But who knows, we might be doing something completely different 6 months from now in terms of our business model. You never know how things turn out, but I'm getting into the groove now. So that has been my experience. Definitely pros and cons. I don't regret leaving my corporate job to work on this. I definitely see us going in the right direction, and I think I'm laying the foundation of being more productive and finding a groove. And when that office space is done in the garage, I will just be able to plug and play, and my efficiency of what I'm already doing is just going to skyrocket. I'm very confident in that. So if I have any advice to anybody who's thinking about quitting their job, I would say that there's never going to be a perfect time to do it. There's better times than others, but like me, I was worried about the office space, working at home with my kid, and I'm still able to work through those. I have to be flexible and I have to be a little bit more open-minded, and I have to find some workarounds that are gonna be really what works for me and my personality. But it's definitely doable. I would say it's not just a walk in the park, and I never really expected it to be. I knew it was going to be a lot of work. Having your own business and working for yourself always is a lot more work, but I do enjoy it, and I do really like not having to answer to anyone. If I don't want to work for a day, I won't have to. I haven't run into that yet, but summer is coming up in Michigan. It's been a very long winter. Maybe I'll take a day off one of these times and walk around with a coffee. I have that option, and that's the difference. And I really like having that option. So overall, pros versus cons, I think the pros definitely outweigh them. And maybe this gives you some insight into if you're thinking about it. I think I'll come back in 6 months and tell you how awesome it is. Until then, see you on the next video.